Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another installment of FIT Talks, the oral history program of the Fashion Institute of Technology, one of 64 campuses of the State University of New York. I am Professor Karen Trivett, and I'm head of the FIT Libraries Unit of Special Collections and College Archives, and this unit administers the FIT Talks program. We are coming to you today from the FIT campus on West 27th Street, Manhattan, New York City, USA. It is August 10th, 2021, and the time is 10:36 a.m. Eastern Time. I have the honor and privilege to be joined today by the FIT Acting Associate Dean for the School of Art and Design, Ms. Melanie Ream. Melanie, welcome to the program and thank you for participating.
Thank you. It's really an honor to be here and especially to speak with you, Karen.
Thank you so much. I love to just dive right in and not leave our viewers wanting for anything.
Okay.
So I start out with a contextual building question. So if you will, tell researchers a little bit about your childhood.
Okay, I'm really a suburban kid, although I grew up until I was 8 in Sunnyside, Queens, and have very fond memories of that. My grandparents lived in Brooklyn, and I spent weekends going to Coney Island and to the Rockaways in the summer. So I also am a little bit of a beach bum for those reasons, and Coney Island still resonates with me today. We moved to Long Island, and I remember, being a good student, loving school, drawing and painting, although not especially a vocation in my mind at that point. Yeah. So yeah, it was great. I had a very great childhood.
Well, I knew we got along for many reasons, but I'm also sort of a beach bum. And I think that's a glue that sticks between
it's so
people.
Feeling, isn't it?
The
sea and the noise of the waves and the sound.
Truly
of
irreplaceable. Nothing else will do. So as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Interestingly, I was sort of heading to want to be a French major.
Oh, really?
Lofty ideals of translating in the United Nations, maybe. In a parallel universe, I was the kind of, cheerleader camp counselor. And so probably education was simmering in the background. But this is a story that has been round and round. My artistic endeavors were kind of like an accident.
Really?
I went into high school. This is going to show you how old I am, but at that time, taking typing was an option. And my mom, said, you really need to know how to type. And as a freshman, I was closed out of typing and put into study hall. And my mom would not have me sitting in study hall in my first year of high school. So we went to the guidance counselor, and she said, there's an opening at that time in studio art. Would you like to go into studio art? And I said, okay. And that was that.
Amazing. You hadn't taken art class before?
Well, I took, up until that time, art is part of your mandatory curriculum, and I actually flourished in it. And another little wonderful sidebar note is that I had a very close, long relationship with my junior high school art teacher, who encouraged me also to speak in front of people. She had me present. And there's an FIT connection there, which I'm not going to take our time to do that, but it's kind of a very sweet, kind of roundabout story. And so in high school, it was an elective, but it wasn't on my mind to do that. But then it became very much a part of everything that I did.
That's stunning. And not to refocus the camera on me again, but I also was a Francophile.
Ah.
and loved French. Went to France a couple of times, once as an exchange student.
Oh, how
And
wonderful.
yeah. So another bit of glue between us
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And my middle school art teacher was Henry Kroom. I remember him very well.
Yeah. It's funny how those names just kind of come back to us in a heartbeat, right?
Forever,
We could only hope
forever.
the same for us here.
Well, you brought up high school. How would you describe your formal education?
So I was very involved in high school. I spent probably the majority of my time on stage crew behind the scenes. I never
Oh,
liked to be in front, and so I designed scenery and props and painted, and it was a wonderful community. I had a lot of friends that I'm still in touch with today from Bethpage, Long Island.
amazing.
And of course, it was a different time, and we used to go in groups, on the bus to the mall and to the beach and all of that stuff. So, but I had curly hair and it was not the style. And so there was a little bit of that carried through all of these years with
Mm.
me, where I used to iron my hair and all of that. So it wasn't all hunky dory, but honestly, like being in my art classes and having the teachers that I did, we had an incredible art program, and I got wonderful support and
Oh,
and guidance and teaching there. Yeah,
stunning,
yeah,
stunning.
yeah.
So post high school, how does your
Uh,
training look after then?
I really wanted to go to Parsons in New York City. My parents felt that it was a little crazy and dangerous to go to be an art student in New York City. And so they encouraged me to follow my teaching path. And I went to SUNY College at Buffalo, where
Mm,
I was an art education major. And I had a minor in art therapy, which at that time
wow.
was kind of new. And I
Mm,
loved that, absolutely loved
mm,
that. And like I said, it was new, not very well funded after college. I graduated at a time when the market was flooded with teachers at the end of the baby boom.
mm,
And honestly, I really was not in love with the idea of teaching K through 12, but that's what my education was.
mhm.
Um, Went across the country with my college roommate. We couldn't get a job. In order to stay certified, I needed either a job or a master's degree, and so I put myself through my MFA in illustration at Syracuse University.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, I had started to freelance. I was working at Newsweek magazine,
Huh,
and that was an education in and of itself. Um,
I
and
would
so
think.
that's what it looked like. Yeah, yeah.
So was the work at Newsweek your first job, or what was your first job?
Well, it's interesting. I saw that question, and I'm going to be a little sassy here
Oh,
and
feel free.
say FIT is really my first job because all of those uh, of my experiences. I worked in the magazine industry. I worked in advertising agencies. I did storyboards. I did design projects. They were all freelance. So it really wasn't considered a job, especially
Mm.
by my parents, I might add.
Oh,
And, um, it was a roller coaster ride. There were high times and low times for me. I studied extensively following my graduate degree with someone I met there who was a huge influence on my life and my teaching. But
mm.
I made it work by doing storyboards. But at some point, after about 10 or 12 years of that, I really felt like I wanted to give back, but it was not at the grade school level. It was in higher ed,
Mhm, mhm.
and kind of went for an interviews at the three regional art schools, and FIT gave me a class, and then they gave me one class to start, and Jane Bixby Weller was the chairperson then, and Dorothy Lavera was the assistant chair. Incredible, strong, super talented, nurturing, supportive women,
Mm,
and they really brought me in and taught me about everything, as well as a lot of my other colleagues in the undergraduate department at that time. Really supportive and wonderful embrace. And so I started with one class. And then the following year, I think I went abroad for the first, I went to France for the first time, well,
Oh,
Paris that year. It was when
oh,
Princess Diana died, because I was there when she passed away. That's how late we started.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
And I got a call from Jane there, and she said, yeah, unfortunately, someone got ill and she wanted to give me 2 more classes. And so began my kind of, adjunct infusion into the illustration department. And then 5 years later, I became full time. So
Amazing.
that was really my first job. And my parents were over the moon, and they couldn't stop telling everybody. Like, up until then, they didn't know how to describe me, but I was now a professor at FIT.
How wonderful. And had you heard of FIT before?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had family who attended, and I knew about FIT, but unfortunately, like a lot of people's perception, even a little bit still, we are our name, and
Yes,
yes. I
exactly.
need
And I
not
know a
say
lot of people think we're a
that.
private school.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
why I always, when I introduce guests and otherwise, I mention State University of New York,
Yeah,
always.
yeah.
The power of SUNY, as they say.
Mhm.
Um, so you meant, before we leave storyboards, that concept for too long, for viewers that don't understand what that concept is, can you explain it?
Sure. So storyboards are little pictures, sequential pictures of the action that will take place in either a television commercial and or a movie.
Gotcha.
And it involves a fast drawing, an understanding of the figure, a command of expression and backgrounds, and um, hands, and fast turnarounds.
I'll
And
bet your
that's how I
theater
explain.
background helped you.
A little bit, but
Mhm.
really, because I studied figure drawing so intensively following graduate school, I draw very fast. That's
Oh,
one thing,
wow.
and so that really helped me, and really, not only helped to put me through graduate school, but also helped me to foster this, post grad work with this, guru that I had.
Yes,
Mhm,
that's a tease of a statement.
mhm.
Before we jump into that, I want to invite you to talk a little bit about all the different roles you've played at FIT. Let's walk through that path.
Okay. So before we kind of get into them, I
Sure.
just would like to say that I really arrived to FIT wanting to teach, and I
Mm,
did, and I loved it. And I feel privileged as a faculty member to have enjoyed so many opportunities at FIT, because it really gave me a sense of how an institution works.
mhm.
However, I never looked for any of them. That I was asked to do each and every one of them. So
Wow.
I just need to say that, because
Sure.
it's kind of unique that I've kind of done so many things. So
What great exposure.
incredible, it because it really, I mean, it was exposure to a great many colleagues that
Mm,
I wouldn't whose paths I wouldn't have crossed,
mhm.
and also to understanding, how it works, and to have a breath. And I couldn't have done it without a great number of significant mentors who were,
Mm,
ahead of me. So like I said, I started to adjunct,
mhm.
and in that role, Jane and Dorothy were huge mentors. Because my work is a little bit more gestural and stylized, not even a little, a lot. I was
Mhm.
embraced by what was then the fashion illustration track in the illustration department, but it was at the cusp of animation making a resurgence. And so
Ah,
Jane had me kind of work with animators, and for a short time, I was kind of like the liaison between some of the entertainment studios who were starting to recruit. It was a tall order for our students who were not of that mindset at that time.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
did that. Um, I did mention that I became full time, but at that time also, unbelievably, the undergraduate illustration department had a string of full time lines offered to them, 7. And
Wow.
there were many people who had been at FIT a lot longer than I have, so I was kind of like the seventh hire.
Oh
But
my goodness.
I kept, putting my CV in every time. And
Mm.
so, like I said, 5 years, which was kind of a short time, relatively speaking. And almost as soon as, really, not almost, as soon as I became full time, we started to work on the development of the then MA in illustration program because simultaneously there was a new dean in graduate studies. There hadn't been a dean. And so I worked with a small committee, and I became the kind of lead for that committee. And then moving forward, when it was approved, I became the chairperson of the MA in illustration program. That was leading, I worked on that from 2001 to 2004. It was to launch in 2005. And in the summer of 2005, leading into the launch, I got called to be the acting assistant dean in the School of Art and Design. And it was a struggle because this was my baby, for the past 3 or 4 years. But
Sure.
it was like this unbelievable opportunity, right? And so I did that. The graduate illustration program is an evening and weekend program, excuse me. So Joanne Arbuckle, who was the dean I reported to at that time, she was also a great mentor to me. And kind of allowed me to sort of wear both hats. There was somebody who was sitting in for me, but it was, up until that point, it was kind of like all me. And kind of in those middle years, I served on the diversity committee. And I also served as a mentor to the Presidential Scholars Program with Irene Buckman, who was also an incredible mentor to me. And I was in Joanne's office for 3 years when it became really crystal clear that the MA should be an MFA program. And it was not fair or really doable for the person who was sitting in for me to take that on. So I stepped down from acting assistant dean to go back to being chairperson. And we started the march towards the MFA. Now, this is critical because FIT was not conferred to deliver a terminal degree. And so at that time, I worked closely. By that time, we had an acting dean. We had a dean and then an acting dean in graduate studies. And I worked closely and went up to SUNY Albany to present the request for FIT to be able to confer a terminal degree, not the illustration degree, just a terminal degree.
Right.
That was granted, came back to FIT, and then started the process over again to get the MFA in illustration granted. So that took another 5 years. And in 2010, we had a bridge year, but we launched the MFA in illustration. In between that, I served on the strategic planning committee and the branding council, and I don't know, just kind of like a number of committees. I also so a little bit later in 2013, I was a Fulbright scholar, in the Dominican Republic, and so I'm very, very proud of the MFA in illustration. Statistically, the graduates that we have who are great successes now is really kind of through the roof, even though it's a small program, so you have to factor that in. But some of them are really household names, and they're also, some of them are on our undergraduate faculty and the graduate faculty, and they're also maintaining very successful illustration careers. So that was really incredible.
Well, that does my heart good because, I mean, I embrace technology, new emerging technologies, but I also like the old school analog, put pencil to paper.
It's true. And there's also, of course, there's technology in the program, but we always start off with figure drawing, which teaches everyone about everything, and so those are really wonderful years. We had affiliations with the Norman Rockwell Museum and with the Society of Illustrators. And the students took a trip to Los Angeles where, I had a lot of contacts there from being involved in Icon and Illustration Conference. I served on the board there. I served on the board of the Society of Illustrators. So this, this all brought the program and FIT, FIT again is not known for illustration. And so it really brought, I feel it brought a level of awareness to who we are and brought our students into the mix, into the conversation, great faculty. Awesome. We had stellar faculty who worked really hard and really those students really got the best of their education there. So it was a really exciting time.
Where do you see that program going?
Well, it's not mine any longer because I did step down, and there's a host of new, younger faculty. And I think that what has transpired predominantly since the years that I was there is that illustration, this was happening at that time, but illustration has just exploded. And there's so many opportunities for illustrators to have a voice in the industry, such as it is far beyond print. It's public art, it's licensing, it's education, it's a mixture of that, it's technology, it's theater, illustrators are everywhere,
What doesn't it touch?
Yeah. So it's a very exciting time. And still, there are those students who come out of undergraduate programs and start to flourish, and they should continue to do that, but the program is really designed for those people who are maybe like mid-career and need a jump start and or starting a second and or third chapter. We there's a couple of people that come to mind who came back to school after their family was grown and just published books, and so it's really, and the blend of those personalities and cultures also in the classroom is so rich.
That's so exciting to hear. I love it when a relatively new curriculum flourishes like that. It's energizing for me.
Yes.
You mentioned your Fulbright work. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yes, so I'm very proud of that part of my life, but it really goes deeper because I printed at Parsons for many years in that print shop community there, and made also another great deep community. And there was a time, so there's a school in the Dominican Republic called Altos de Chavon that has an affiliation with Parsons. We tried to do it at FIT, but we're a state school, they're a private school. The path is easier in some ways.
I hear you,
but there was an exhibition there once on the wall, and a friend of mine there said, "You really should take a look at this. The talent is so great. It's an associate's degree program." And I looked at the wall, Karen, and it was an epiphany. And I thought, I need to be there. And so I made an appointment. I sent my work in and received an invitation to speak with the rector, who's the dean/rector there. And for some reason that day, I wore a pair of Moroccan slippers that I had bought just the summer before on a trip. And he looked me up and down and said, "You're going to fit in just fine. Get ready." And that was in 1998. And I had been teaching for them on my breaks, winter breaks ever since. And so they were like my second family. And so they have a robust program, Fulbright program in that country. And so it was a natural for me to do that on also a winter break. And I was there for 6 weeks, I think. And I really kind of like reshaped their curriculum with them and worked on, the points that are not so present there that we have here with curriculum, grade appeals, kind of shaping a structure that was lacking there to some degree. And I also taught. It was like a teaching / research, and I drew. I drew on location, which I do everywhere. So, it really it's something that will travel with me always. And it was a really, I met a lot of people outside the circle that I had already had there, and other Fulbrighters, and came back and worked with Dr. Oliva and Elaine Maldonado to try to infuse, and Deidre Sato, when she came, to try to infuse and uptick the number of Fulbrighters we have on our FIT campus, which I believe we had. So it's great.
That's awesome. How would someone find out more about the Fulbright program?
They have a very robust website, and so that's always great. But I think that if they speak with Deidre Sato's office, International Education, that's the best place. That's where it's housed now.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And it's a wonderfully, wonderfully rewarding experience. Of course, I guess that we have to be prudent and safe these days, but just getting it on your radar is a great thing to do.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And you've mentioned the word mentor. I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the mentors that stand out to you and how they touched your life.
Yeah, well, I have a great many mentors at FIT, and I have mentors outside of FIT also. But the first woman I interviewed with, Dorothy Lavero, was an incredible mentor to me. She was a giant in fashion illustration, and she was an uber committed faculty member and committed to the students. And when she and Jane hired me, Jane was the chairperson, Dorothy assistant chair. They both really took the time to, as an adjunct, you don't really know what you don't know. So it's hard to ask questions, really, unless something comes up. But I remember Dorothy used to kind of like run through lesson plan ideas with me and tell me about how to work with the models. And also Jane used to pull me out of the classroom to attend certain unique meetings and have the coordinator for the department just watch my classroom for 15 minutes so I could get a taste of it. Otherwise, I would just be there on the days that I was there. And so I really learned by listening.
Sure.
To the conversation. I didn't have a vote, but I attended every, department meeting. I was also introduced, like I said at that time, to Irene Buckman, who ran the Presidential Scholars Program, and I worked with that program for, I don't know, maybe 5-7 years or something like that. And that was such a joy and a pleasure.
Oh, the students are so inspiring and energizing. I mean, Irene invited me to participate a couple of times with specific projects, and it was glorious.
Beyond what you can imagine, right?
Truly.
It's really wonderful. I also worked on the accreditation, initiatives, which is where I think I met Joanne in a middle state committee. And I met her and then was really, taken aback when I was asked to become her assistant dean. And she, of course, was a wonderful mentor and very, very open to having me have my own platform in the office.
Wow.
And brought me to meetings. I was very much a part of the initiatives that went on at that time. And, created a really unique relationship with, at that time, was the emerging TDT, the technology.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And also student government. There was an incredible group of students who ran the government at that time, and we did incredible projects together. And I'm still in touch with them on social media.
Oh,
I'm still in touch with a lot of my students, and that's the best part of this,
Sure. Clearly.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there were others you'd like to talk about, or if you would like to talk about how you've mentored.
Yeah, well,
people?
I try to, I mean, the guru I mentioned is someone I met in grad school, David Pesalacqua, and he not only, I'm going to say he taught me how to draw, but what he really did was taught me how to think.
Oh,
And his teaching and critiques were so magical, and a huge, huge influence on the way that I teach and model the way that I teach now. And I've had other significant, you know, people in grad school. Marshall Arisman. I studied with Robert Weaver, who was a real champion of kind of like repertorial art. So
mm,
I really became a repertoire artist. John Gundelfinger, who's no longer alive. Dave is not alive either.
oh,
Um, but that's when I got excited about teaching again, when I saw
mm,
teaching through their eyes, you know.
mhm,
Dave's community stretches far and wide,
hmm.
and I'm still in touch with those people also. So I have these kind of pockets of great communities that I'm very grateful for.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of me mentoring, it's an important job, and dare I say responsibility, I think, to
Mm,
some degree as an educator. And it has to be cultivated carefully. Um,
sure.
it's There's a fine line between becoming a student's friend, educator, mentor, and I always felt it was my responsibility to educate the students as to what those boundaries were
Mm,
and how we can work together to foster that kind of unique relationship.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and it's about being available. It's about
Yes.
tough love. It's
Mm,
about being transparent and honest. It's about championing. It's about loving,
yeah.
and it's about celebrating when, even when they make a line that they didn't do before. um, and I really have had, opportunities to kind of embrace those students. For example, right before the pandemic, I was asked to draw on the SUNY float during Pride Day, and
Oh,
I
wow.
tapped one undergraduate student and one graduate student, and we drove down the float together, and I like to think that, I know that they produced great work, but I also like to feel like they saw what it was to see me in my element working, which they
Mhm.
don't do aside from an occasional demo. I'm not a big demo person. Um, so yeah, there's a lot, and I think I'm still learning how to do that.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that's another trait we share is
Mhm,
the
mhm.
constant lifelong learning
Yes,
in
yes,
action.
yes, yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of well, the word initiatives and programs and such, but are there any initiatives that really stand out when you think of your tenure at FIT? Um, it might be hard to choose.
No, well, there's one in particular, under Joanne, that I was lucky because it was the timing, but
Um,
we really had a great time with it. And like I said, it was when technology was really making its mark at FIT. So we had the technology team, which was James and Meredith at that time, and I think Jeffrey Ryman might have been a part of it, or maybe he came a little later. Anyway,
mhm.
I had this idea because this is a terrible thing to say on this platform, but I will, is that I have to admit to being a reality show junkie to some degree. And I took my nod from one of the shows, and I called this initiative Trading Places. And what we
Oh,
did was take students, I worked with the faculty who knew them best, and we organized with the help of a lot of people, Karen, the technology team,
mm,
security, buildings and grounds, the faculty, the chairpersons, the students, student life, the
gosh.
print shop, everybody. Um, and we put stations up, and the students in the Great Hall taught the faculty how to use technology.
Huh.
We had a Photoshop station, we had a SketchUp station, we had an Illustrator station, and the place was filled. It was rocking because
I
there were
love
a
that
lot of
idea.
people on campus who were afraid or didn't know where to go, you know,
Mm.
even though we tried through all of
Mm-hmm.
the channels to do it. And we did it maybe 4 times over 2 years, and because things kept evolving. And it
Yes.
it was it was really a huge success, I have to say, but it was
Oh,
because of the students that it was, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
participants, you know. And so fast forward to when I came into the associate dean's role, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought it's kind of like Trading Places 2.0 with Instagram and you
Yes.
know all that. And it wasn't it didn't take off like the last one, but some people did learn a few things about Instagram
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of like that idea because the students they are at the cusp of what's happening next or has happened, and they know what they're talking about. They take to it so readily.
Oh,
I've had students who have taught me Photoshop tips in classes, and we should listen to them. And it empowered them and it gave them a chance to understand how to speak publicly,
mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
to explain what they knew, that they knew it and we didn't, was just, you know, there was smiles from
Oh,
all the way around. So that's that's kind of one of my fondest, you know, memories
I
of
can see
doing things
why.
on campus. Hmm.
Amazing. So I guess we'll pull the lens out, the focus out a little bit at this
Hmm.
point. What would you say was a person who had a super positive influence? You've mentioned a few in like a work setting, but let's broaden that lens a bit. What did he or she do to influence you?
Um, you know, I've also mentioned my parents a little bit, and I would say I was probably closer with my mom than my dad, even though I look exactly like my dad and have his hair, his eyes, and all that. And I have sort of like the gentle side of him, but my mom was a very strong, fair woman, you know,
Mm,
and I don't think that she lived her life. My sister and I have remarked about this, that we're curious as to how she translated what she did to us in terms of thinking of everybody in a very fair way, opening our minds and our hearts to
mhm,
a lot of different kinds of people, maybe based on the way we grew up and were kind of shunned for being Jewish sometimes and not being able to
mm,
play with people.
oh,
Um, and um, being strong women who, you know, are not afraid to work, have strong careers. Um, she didn't especially live her life that way, but somehow she translated that message to us, you know.
what a
And
gift.
yes, and so we're really grateful for that, you know.
Absolutely.
And there's other people, for example, the dean of the school in the Dominican Republic, who's
Hmm.
become a very close friend. I love watching him interact with students. I always learn something from him. And another woman who was my boss at Newsweek, Carmel Zino, who actually taught for me in the graduate program. She was an incredible mentor and saw something with me when I asked her to work. I worked on the not on the editorial side, on the advertising side of Newsweek,
Mm.
and she, along with all of the senior art directors, there was a tremendous hierarchy there, like senior art directors, junior art directors, senior designers, junior designers, and then I was in mechanical row, you know, the freelancers. But I freelanced there for 12 years.
Wow.
You know, I learned about life. I learned about
Mm.
the variety of chocolates, but beyond Hershey, uh, all the shoe brands in New York City, all the resources to get theater tickets, not waiting online. I mean,
Wow.
and I learned about the business, of course, you
Mm.
know, and loved every minute of it, you know. And Carmiel really taught me a lot about that, and a lot about design, and a lot about the design industry beyond illustration. You know, I fell in love with typography working there, and
Oh, yeah.
understand how the connections, and also another community of people that I'm still in touch with. Yeah.
That's rich.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I have to ask, given the DR connection, did you ever happen to meet Oscar de la Renta?
No, not exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there was an element to my experience there where I was close by. Let's say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. I just had to ask. Sorry. So, again, keeping the lens wide, do you remember someone saying something to you that really resonated and shifted or made you pivot in some way to a better direction?
Well, a couple of ways. The junior high school art teacher that I mentioned earlier, Marion Rothenberg, you might recognize that name, which is the connection.
Yeah.
She told me long before it was a glint in my eye to teach that she had me present. She was teaching a class at CUNY, I think it was, and I presented to her students, and she said, "You should be in front of the classroom."
Wow.
And she was probably the first one, you know, aside from my counselor days, you know. And I want to also say the students, you know, the student evaluations, some, you know, and how, you know, sometimes there was a common thread in the critiques or the comments. And, you know, as flawed as we think those are, sometimes we do them for a reason, you know.
Right, of course, yes.
Joanne also really was a great champion for me, you know, and we have a very earnest relationship where she really was wonderful about telling me my strengths, but also highlighted what I needed to work on, you know. And if we're not here for that, then what are you here for, you know?
Absolutely. I find that to be one of the most generous things you can do for your fellow human beings. If you can do it in such a way that's constructive and an educational moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's a wonderful thing to hear. So I always close with this question, which is, what question didn't I ask that you wished I had?
Oh gosh.
We covered a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think we kind of touched on this a little earlier, Karen, that you know, I will soon be leaving FIT, you know, so a lot of people have been asking, you know, what's next. And there's a lot of unknowns about that, but there is a known factor for me. And I have really loved my time at FIT. And like I said, it's offered me a window into the working institution, you know, and I've met people from business and technology and liberal arts and the graduate studies and people inside and outside FIT, and I've loved every minute of it. But in its wake is my studio.
Oh.
And, I've barely gone there over the past 4 years or since I've had it, and it's calling me, and I look forward. And you know, like I said, also I'm a reportage artist, so I look forward, you know, cautiously in these times to go back out and to draw outside on location.
Yeah.
And to go back to drawing the figure in person, and to get back into my studio and, you know, tinker away. You know, I bought a set of tools. I want to hammer things. I want to build things. You know, I've been able to travel a great deal over the past 20 years, largely through a group I'm involved with outside of a campus called Urban Sketchers. And the cultural influences of puppets and masks and sculptures and the way that other cultures look at illustration and art is exciting to me, you know. And I'll continue my work with the Society of Illustrators and, you know, maybe in some ways through FIT and, you know, maybe do some writing. I don't know, but yeah, that's what's next.
Well, I can't wait to see the product of your work and your passion.
Thanks.
And I cannot thank you enough for spending this bit of an hour with us. It's almost an hour. So
me who thanks you. Thank you for thinking of me this way.
And I cannot wait to share this with a global audience.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, I'm actually going to stop recording now. I want to thank our viewers for watching, and stay tuned for another installment of FIT Talks soon.